Hello, 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 everybody. It is Friday night, and it is your time to get from me my little take on what I've been doing and what I want to share with you from what I've been doing because I know that I was not taught this skill. I went to school and they taught me to read and to write. They didn't teach me this particular skill, and I'm sure most of us have had this experience. But from my reading from the Stephen Covey's book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, this one particular skill is very, very important. And even more so now, it's even more important. And that is our interpersonal communication. Wow, a lot of words, Yvette. So we're going to talk about that tonight, but we're going to narrow it down into one part that he focuses on in habit number 5, if you have read the book, and that is seek first to understand and to be understood. And it has to do with emphatic listening. All right. So if you have not met me before, my name is Yvette Garel, and I come to you live in this community once per week just to share. And I like to share some things that has resonated with me over the maybe the week or a couple of months or down the line. I like to share some things because I know that if it has helped me, I'm hoping that it will help you as well. Because this is something that we didn't learn in school, right? They taught we did, we went from elementary to middle school to high school and to college and all these degrees and so on and so forth. They didn't teach me how to listen. No, nope. They taught me all the material, how to read and write coming up. And then, of course, I had to figure out how to, do the papers and understand the material. And of course, we were in class and we were listening, but they didn't teach us how to listen. Well, I don't know about you. I'm just talking about my time. So, as I read and I learn and as I grow, I like to share. Okay? So, how you guys doing? I know this is a boring topic for a Friday night. I know. Yep, I know. I know this is not what you want to hear on a Friday night, but this is what I'm going to share. Now, if this is not your cup of tea, it's okay. But if it's something that you can learn from, and it's fine, But this is something that I've seen over the years, even my own self, that even though I have learned about this thing, I said I don't practice it all the time, but I'm growing into it. And I find that the more I grow into it, so much better communication has become. Interpersonal communication in our homes, in our businesses, with other people, family, and even in the workplace. Because we practice this skill, this will help us out. Because sometimes, first thing we want to do is to diagnose. We don't even know what the problem is. We want to diagnose and treat the situation before we even know what the problem is. All right. So Stephen Covey talks about emphatic communication. All right. First of all, he says he said that how often, in his dialogue here, he said, how often do we diagnose before and how often do we diagnose before we prescribe something in the communication? So somebody comes to you to share something, and first sentence, you jump in. I have no idea. No idea. First sentence. Now, he helps us in this chapter to get to a better place of understanding before we even try to respond. And so, for those of you who are readers, this is a very good book to read, and that's a very good chapter to read. All right. He said, of course, we weren't taught in elementary school how, teachers said, oh, come on, children, sit down and listen. But did we teach us how to listen? You know, they taught us how to form letters, out the phonics, and all of that good stuff, and where to put the emphasis on which word, and so on. But we have 2 years here, so we know we were hearing, and so, but what are we listening for? Maybe sounds and symbols, whatever it is. But it's different at this stage of our lives when we have to deal with other adults or our peers. It is very different as soon as, because now we have grown and the senses have been more matured and so on and so forth. The listening and the communication is different. We are married, we got kids, we got family members out there, we got bosses, we have um upline, downline, and all of that good stuff. The listening becomes much more important. Okay, so he said, seek first to understand. Now, I read the book and I listened to it on audio. Seek first to understand. Sometimes we are too quick with the answer. Sometimes we are too quick with the treatment. Sometimes we don't understand, because if I am saying something to you, this is how I feel about this particular thing. I am the one feeling it. Now, if I might not be able to find the words to articulate so that you can actually resonate with my feelings, relate with how I feel. Takes me a while to find the correct words. So you now would have to keep asking the questions. They talk about peeling back the onion, getting and pulling it out so you can actually understand to the last point exactly how I feel. Because some of us, like myself, sometimes when you're upset, when you're mad, when something is bothering you, you cannot even say how you feel. Sometimes you don't even know how you feel. Can you describe it? So the person who is listening, or whoever you have gone to, or whoever is that person, your friend, they will now have to help you to articulate, and so they can understand exactly what you're talking about. So he says, seek first to understand before you start to diagnose, treat the situation, right? So this involves a very deep listening. It's like it's now, it moves now from the surface. It's not my eyes anymore, it's not my ears anymore, it's now my heart. So it becomes deep now and personal, because now we listen intently. So now you're listening with your eyes, your ears, your facial expression, and with your heart. You got your soul into this thing because you want to understand, and the person who is telling you want you to understand. How many of us how many of us actually get into this part of it? And so think about it. Sometimes we just go off course because we don't understand. We go off course, or we make comments that really be like, really? And we say things that, because we haven't understood. We are not understanding what the person is talking about. So if you're like me, I am trying to practice this skill, right? Let me see. I'm trying to practice this skill, right? Because I find that the more I practice this skill, is the better off I am at communication. And so I would encourage you to do the same if you're not doing it already. All right. Now, I'm not here to tell you to, I'm just making a suggestion, because it works. It really works. So, Stephen Covey, he says, emphatic listening is so powerful because it gives you accurate data to work with. You're not assuming anything. You're not be like, that might, I think, no, you're not getting half of the information, you're getting the entire. information, because you know you have searched their heart, and the person who is giving you the information has given you everything because you have listened. And you're not only listening with your eyes and your ears and your nose and your mouth and whatever, you're now listening with your heart, because it has to be that feeling portion that you now can ask the questions, or you can, how did that make you feel? How are you feeling about that? All the questions that you guys know how to ask, right? On your job, yes, when you have that irate um employee, or we know we got all the workplace things in a row, but at the same time, you could be out in the parking lot and people get all nifty 50. And so we have got to understand, because you said for one time, they might not even understand what you're talking about. Gotta get a little, give a little deeper explanation, right? He said, instead of projecting your own autobiography and assuming the thoughts, feelings, motives, and interpretation, you're dealing with the reality inside another person's head, right? And heart. So we're trying to wrap it up in a bow because, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah, I know what. Yeah. You might have had a similar experience, but you didn't have the same, because you cannot, right? Yeah, I know what you feel. No, you don't. You don't know how I feel. You assuming, right? So you might be able to resonate with some things I'm saying, but you cannot tell me and you know how I feel. Have you had the similar situation? Have you ever, how, tell me about your, so, and it's so we are different people, but we say it all the time. Yeah, I know how you feel about this. Yeah, kind of, sort of, a way, but not in real sense, right? So he says here, he says, emphatic listening is so powerful, it gives you accurate data, because you'd have already doing some dissecting of the heart. You're digging, because now you want to get into the emotional piece, because that's where it resonates. I can just rattle off and oh yeah, no, but how did it make you feel? A lot of us don't like to talk about the feeling portion. So I'm a one, if this is something you want to, yeah, not everybody. And you got your kids, you got family members. So how does that gonna help you in communicating? There are always gonna be issues. So how do we gonna get past that? So he said, you're listening to understand. Yeah. So when we listen, somebody comes to us with a situation, we need to listen to understand exactly what the person is talking about. And a lot of times we got to ask questions. And you know what? Some people don't like to ask them questions. They don't like when you question their, be like, what are you asking me? I don't like you ask me questions. Some people don't like you ask you questions. But then you have to find a way, because if you're going to understand in order to help them, then that is necessary. But you have to use your nice self, personality, and tact and skill in order to break into some of these zones, because people put up their fences, they put up their, oh yeah, they put up a roadblock, and now it takes a little time, a little patience, and some skill sets to get into that. All right, so he says, when you listen emphatically to another person, you give that person psychological air. Now, what is he talking about there? Okay, so they can breathe. Oh, got a sigh of relief right there. So now they take the pressure off and they come down. So he talks about the psychological air. He says it's so important in every aspect of communication, because it doesn't matter how we are saying and we just rattle it off. There's that feeling part. That if you don't uncover that part, then it's still there. And that's what did Maya Angelou said? People will forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel, right? Remember that. So he said the need for psychological air is so important in communication. So we need to as we go on our life, on our journey, and we are communicating with our peers, with our partners, with our kids, with our wherever, we've got to be conscious and so cognizant of the fact that if somebody is sharing something with you, we need to listen. We need to listen intently with our eyes, our ears, and with our heart. So, and he has a lot of stories in the chapter. But the habit 5, that's the focus: seek first to understand, then to be understood. You know, I've had instances, people, you understand what I'm saying? You don't understand what I'm saying. Do you understand what I'm saying? You understand I'm trying to say this to you. Do you understand? And that can just go south because you're saying, oh, do you understand now? If the person says yes, maybe that's not true, but they might just say yes to just get the temperature down, right? So listen, seek first to understand. Yes. And some situation, is kind of hard, but it's a necessary skill. And even if you have to put it out for another day, then you can have the conversation when there is dialogue. So it doesn't just start here. It has to be dialogue. There has to be a conversation. People got to, feel safe. They got to trust you, and all that has to come into play because there's some things that are really sensitive in nature. Because with the sensitive part, take on the feeling part, the emotional side of it. And people put their roadblocks up. They don't want to tell you anything about that little, they keep it right here. It's so personal. But that is a part that is hurting. That is a part that needs addressing. Now, how do we dissect that? How do we get into that? Take some skills, right? So if you have mastered those skills, kudos to you. But I'm telling you, sometimes I struggle with that particular skill because when the roadblocks, when the walls go up, then you'll be like, oh, all right, let's figure this out. Yeah. So seek first to understand, then to be understood, because that is when, in order for them to even hear what you're saying, you got to understand what they're saying to you. The listening with your heart. Oh my goodness. So Stephen Covey, I'm telling you, he said, diagnose before you can prescribe. All right? Diagnose before you can prescribe, because in other words, for you to if you don't understand, how are you going to diagnose? How are you going to give suggestions? How are you going to give? And you might be giving suggestions to the wrong thing. You might be giving advice to the wrong thing. You're not hitting that target. That's why it's so important to listen emphatically and then practice that skill. If you have children, sometimes those children drive us crazy, right? But are we listening to them? Are we listening to what they're saying? And I can tell you from personal experience that I used to drive my parents crazy. Oh, yeah. And because they weren't hearing what I was saying, and all that good stuff. And, well, we're going to say in those days we didn't know any better. Our parents didn't know any better, whatever it is. But things have changed. We have gone past a lot of stuff. And so there's no shortage of information and guidance and resources and so on. So some of the problems that we have can easily be solved with proper communication. And this is one part of it. Remember I said when we went to school, we learned how to read and write. Yes, they said sit and listen, and the teacher reads, and so on and so forth. But they didn't teach us how to listen. We were just instructed to listen, right? Yeah, nothing's wrong with that. That's how it was. And so the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we learn, and the more we understand how to treat this aspect of the communication, which is so, so important, interpersonal communication, because there's a lot of breakdown, a lot of conflict, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of disagreements, and so on and so on, because we are not understanding what the other person is saying. But what they're saying is not actually bringing out the full meaning of what they're actually feeling. Right? So he said here, he said emphatic listening involves much more than registering, reflecting, or even understanding the words that are said. If we listen to the words that are said, sometimes we gone south and the person is way up north, right? We are nowhere close, and vice versa, right? Because we know sometimes we sit and we listen and we're like, okay, well, what are they actually saying? I understand one thing, right? Yeah. So he said it's more than the words, because then he goes on to say, um, the, that he talked about communication experts, right? He said that the communication expert said 10% of our communication is represented by the words we say. 10%. Wow, 10%, right? He said another 30% is represented by our sound. Because, we put emphasis on some words. Emphasis on some words when that's because that we stress some words. We say them, and we so powerful, and we come down strong on some line. Did you hear what I say? Or and that kind of stuff. There's some feeling attached to all of that, because if you listen intently, now the words and the sounds that come out can actually give you an indication that there's more. Yeah. So he says 10% are just words. Huh? 30% are our sound. What we sound like. Are we crazy? Are we mad? Are we upset? Are we calm? Are we annoyed? Oh, yeah. All those things. Because when you're annoyed, think about what you say. When you're upset, think about what you say. When you're calm, think about what you say. When you feel loved and special, think about what you say. Yeah. When you're upset, when somebody's driving you nuts, think about what you say, right? And some of those words can be really colorful. Yeah, right. But he said 60% are our body language. 60% body language. Wow. 60%. 10% are the words. So we felt, or we would think that it is the words that we speak sometimes that actually has the impact. 10% of the words, 30% are the sounds, right? 60% is the body language. Wow. When I read that thing, I was like, what? 60%, more than half of what we are saying comes out in our body language. Watch it, people. I have to catch myself sometimes, because you can't keep a straight face all the time. When I'm upset, it shows in my face first. Like in my face first. I don't have to say a word. You see my face. It's like, no. And so all of us have a little thing. We put our hands on our hip, or we point the finger, or we clench your fist, or we just like, or Yeah. And so all of us has our little, what we do. But think about that body language. No wonder a lot of times it is a body language that give away, make people now understand that no, 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 there's more to it than just what you're saying. Yeah. I remember when I used to be in the job, and I used to be like interviewing folks for the positions and so on and so forth. And you'd ask the questions, and you'd ask the questions, but I'm telling you, there's something about that body language that really doesn't even match with the words people say sometimes. And I used to watch, because the body language tells me a lot more, or used to tell me a lot more than what they're trying to say. Yeah, I'm listening, but I'm what? I'm paying attention. And think about it, when you go for an interview, don't be alarmed. Sometimes what you're saying don't even mean, it's how you are saying it. And you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. But the body language is like, especially if we normalize certain behaviors, it's just gonna flow right in. And so we gotta catch ourselves. Sometimes we don't even realize that you ask a question, you look down like this, you be like, you ask a question, you're all over the place like this, because then you don't want to say the answer. You might want to say, ask a question, you be like looking up like this, and yeah, the body language, right? Wow, we got a lot to work on, don't it? We got a lot to work on. All right, I got 4 minutes. Okay, so he said the emphatic listening, and I'm gonna finish with this. You guys gotta go read the book. Go read the book. Awesome stuff. Good stuff. Helps us personally. Why am I bringing this to you? Because it has helped me personally. Now, I am by no way, shape, or form perfect in any way. But I'm telling you, that's why I read. That's why I look for things that help me to become that better person. I look for things that help me, to help somebody else. So as I read and as I learn and go along the way, I'm like, this might help someone. And so if this is helping you, don't feel free to make your comments. Yes. And if you want to add more to it, or if you want to hear more on this stuff, maybe one of these days we can have a little chit chat, little fireplace chat. Because this is good, my friends, because growing up as a teenager, we did some, my mama would say, dumb stuff. We did some dumb stuff, right? And even as adults, we do some dumb, dumb, dumb stuff. So if we can change some of these behaviors and do things differently, maybe we would have a better world in our little circle. So you got to do the inner circle first. First of all, you got to work on you. So I'm working on me, and so as I work on me, I work on I extend it out, right? But let's finish up with what Stephen Covey has to say here. He said, in emphatic listening, you listen with your ears, but you also, and more importantly, listen with your eyes. So I'm listening with my ears. Have you been listening and you listen with your ears and something? I'll be like, yeah, you listen with your ears, you listen with your eyes, huh? And with your heart. So you're listening with your ears, yeah. But when you start listening with your eyes and listen with your heart, now you're getting into the meter thing. Now your things are resonating with you. Now things are hitting you. Be like, oh my goodness, I need to know more about that. Can you share more about that? Would you like to? And I'm telling you, those deeper personal stuff are the ones that are the most difficult to share because they touch the soul. And so we still got to develop that skill set in order to even ask for that. The trust. Huh? Because the first thing they'll be like, can I trust to share that with you? So I'm saying, so there's a lot to learn and a lot to go. So listen for feelings, for meanings. You listen for behaviors. Use your skill set that you have developed. And if you have not developed, this is a good way to maybe listen to what Stephen, and he gives us a lot of examples, and he brings out a lot of scenarios in his book. That's why I like to read his book. Tells you, bring the, so you know the practical side of it, so it comes home. So remember now, the last thing I'm gonna share with you, and I'm gonna get out of your way. Emphatic listening can improve our interpersonal communication. First of all, we got to work on us, self. So this is the only thing you can control, you. Remember that. So work on you. I am working on me, and I'd encourage everybody work on you, because none of us have arrived. We all got flaws. So wherever it is, we try to make that part of us better, so we can be better persons for the people that we live with, and for the people that we serve, and for those persons that we will impact later on down the road. So emphatic listening. You listen with your ears, but you also, and more importantly, listen with your eyes and your heart. So I'm going to leave you with that tonight. Let's see how that resonates with you. Leave your comments. Let me know if that is something that you enjoyed tonight. And I would encourage you to go grab the book. And you know what? Get it on audio, because you can listen to it driving down the road, or while you're doing stuff, you can listen to it. Things have become so accessible to us these days. There is no reason why we make all the excuses that we make, because you can get, I remember back in the day, we had to read these books, and some of them were like 3 times this. We had to read them books in order to search for the information. Now we can listen, and we can listen to it over and over and over again. So we can, get more. Each time you listen, you hear something different, or you, in addition to what you've heard before, you're hearing now something different. Just like when you read, each time you read, something different pops out. I'm telling you, it's such a beautiful world that we're living in. But I hope you're doing well tonight. And I hope that it's Friday and you had a great week. And even if you didn't have a so great week, that was your great week. What you call not so great is somebody else great, great, great. So we're going to be thankful for how our week went, our work week, and our families, and so on and so forth, as we continue on this journey. And remember, the word is impact. We always want to impact lives. That's our purpose, our calling. Your life, your sister, your brother, whomever you can help, right? Impact some lives. Let's leave a legacy. Remember? Yeah, leave a legacy in somebody else's terrain. All right, my friends, I will see you next week. And when I don't know what I'll be bringing, but I'll definitely come with something that will help you along your journey. Have a great, great weekend. Have a great night. Love upon yourself, on your family, wherever you are on this big blue marble. Take care of yourself and be good. Until next time, talk soon. Bye bye.